Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today I have a Christmas card project for you. And I'm using the Snowman Builder Punch and some glimmer paper and the plaid Christmas paper. So let me show you the pieces that you need to make this card. I used a base of cherry cobbler that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And so here is my base. Then I'm using a piece of this pretty white, gold, and cherry cobbler plaid paper with the gold elements on it, and that is cut 4 by 5 1/4. Then I have a piece of whisper white that is 2.5 by 4, and then this piece of cherry cobbler is 2 1/4 by 3 3/4 to fit inside here. Then I have a piece of a scrap of the glitter paper, and you can see here I've already cut out my snowman here, and so that is the snowman that's going to go on the front. Then I couldn't make up my mind. What I decided I didn't like about this first card is there wasn't enough picking up the gold. I did these little gold sequins, but it just wasn't quite enough. So I thought I would add the gold ribbon or the gold foil paper to either side to bring out the gold, and I'm leaning towards the paper because it's shinier. And so I cut a little bit of length of both of those so we could experiment and see which one we liked the best. The other thing I'm using is this. This is called, oh gosh, it's the Snowman Elements, I think is what it's called, out of the holiday catalog. I'll have the name up on the screen for you. And it's got all of these cute little embellishments, carrot nose, the charcoal eyes, the charcoal buttons for the vest, and it's also got these little stick arms, and they're stickers. And there's also in this some felt elements like a scarf and a different kind of hat for our snowman, and in fact mittens. And these elements come in a couple of different colors, and so I haven't decided yet. They come in that spruce color, they come in a pool party, they come in a, I don't know which this one is, flirty or one of the other pinks, and then in real red. And I thought the real red wouldn't be appropriate because that's against the cherry cobbler, but we could try one of these other ones instead of the hat if that's what we decide to do. But I've also cut a hat just in case. And so I've got all of my elements here, and we'll just go ahead and put this together and see which way we like it. So the very first thing I'm going to do, oh, and I'm using the puff paint, which I thought might be kind of interesting to show you how that works. The first thing we're going to do is put this element together. So we'll be working on this little piece here first. And I'm just going to take my snowman and I'm going to glue him down on our card piece with a little bit of Tombow glue. And I'm putting him a little bit more towards the top than the bottom, and that way I have a place to use my puff paint like snow on the bottom here. And then I'm using from Itty Bitty Christmas, Celebrate the Season. So let me just get this and hold it in place just a second. Like it wants to curl. There we go. All right, now if we decide to put on these elements, I kind of like the hat better. I think he's a little bit more sophisticated with a hat. So I'm going to go ahead and put the hat on him and I'm going to raise that up on dimensional. Grab a dimensional and put it on his hat and set that in place. Now I'm going to take these little elements out of this kit, and this is all part of the Snowman suite in the holiday catalog. And I'm going to take one of these orange noses. It's kind of a big nose, so I'm going to put that in place on his, where his nose would go, and then I'm going to grab a couple of these coal eyes and put them in place. He's just such a cute little snowman. There we go. And then what I did was I used my black marker to put a smile face on here because he doesn't have one built in. So then I want, let's try one of these big coal, and we'll put a couple of buttons on here instead of 4 little ones. Or maybe we'll put 3 of these larger buttons on here. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to show you how to use the puff paint. And I've already taken mine out, and you want to shake it so that the puff paint mixes with whatever the medium is in here, and I don't know what it's mixed with. But you don't want to shake it too hard or you'll get bubbles, and you may or may not want bubbles. Okay, so mine is shaken a bit, and what I'm going to do is set some of this snow around the bottom here of our snowman, and then like I did here, a little bit of the snow down here, and then some little dots of falling snow in different sizes here. This big blob, I'm going to take some from here and set them down. And so there's our puff paint snow. All right. And I think that's enough. Now I'm going to take my heat tool, and I'll quiet the video while I do this. But the thing you do is heat this up with your heat tool to get the snow to puff. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to usually run it at faster speed. I'm going to run it at a little bit slower so you can really see. You can see that I blew his nose right off. So we'll put another one on. So maybe I need to put a touch of Tombow down on underneath this, because I sure wouldn't want that to come off later. So I am going to touch a little bit of Tombow. Well, there's a lot more than I wanted. I had to add another little piece to his smile in that. So that is how you use the puff paint. And so I've got a little bit of snow showing underneath the snowman, and this is now hard to the touch. So it puffs up and hardens in place. Isn't that fun? So that's using the elements here and the puff paint. Now this piece is now ready to go mounted on this piece, and I'm going to use Tombow on the back here because I really want this to stick down, and this card is warping a little bit, so I want to just make sure that it gets on here, gets itself centered. There we go. And then we can hold that in place until we're absolutely sure that is on there and holding. Hold it down a second for the Tombow to get its grip. And there we go. Now, what we have to decide is if that is made up the way that one is done, and I'm not crazy about that. It just bothers me that there's no more gold on there. And I do think I'm partial to these strips of gold. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put down my strip of gold, and I want to be able to wiggle that around and get it on there so that it absolutely covers from top to bottom. So I'll set that in place at the top, and that's how much margin I'm going to have on this side. Then this piece will go on here, and I don't think I want too much more than that showing out of the corner. So it looks like I'm going to put some glue down the center of this one and leave it so that I can wiggle it around once I get it put in place. And again, if that's where it's going to go, then I want this one right about there. And let me put that into place and then lay this on top. I think that's going to be just perfect. Okay, so let me just make sure that I've got this piece on here straight, and I'll use the grid lines on my paper to make absolutely sure of that. So if I've got this on a line here and then this going top to bottom right against that grid line, that should be perfectly straight. Now I can go ahead and add my Tombow or snail or whatever you're doing to the back of this, and since my hat is raised and I'm going to raise my sentiment, I'm going to lay this one down flat on the card. Oh, there's the other nose. Now this whole piece is ready to go on my card front, and for that I am going to use snail because I don't want any warping with the Tombow glue against the paper. So I'm going to use snail, and I don't know where my other tape runner is. Oh, I see it. But this is going to go on the card front, and I can tell I already like it better with a little bit of gold on either side. Okay, then we need a little piece of scrap of cherry cobbler and a little piece scrap of white, and I'm going to put my Celebrate the Season on. Get my cherry cobbler out. Oh, wrong kind of ink pad. All right, so here we go. Get this inked up. And try to put this straight on the page, although with the punch it doesn't really matter. There's my well, I'm not happy with that. Let me do that again. Maybe I'll do it over on this side. It looks like one side had a little bit more ink on it than the other. Celebrate the Season. There we go. And then I'm going to use my punch. Oh, it doesn't quite fit. So this is one where I'm going to have to extend the punched image. Let me show you. I showed this on another video when we were doing tips and tricks on these kinds of punches. So what I need is a measurement of how wide this punch opening is, and it looks to right at about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to use my trimmer to trim down the edge on the paper here, and then get it. Okay, so I'm going to have to trim it down a tiny. This is where this trimmer is wonderful, because it will trim very, very close. So I'm going to get it to trim, and it's not on there exactly straight. So I'm going to try and straighten it up with my trimmer, and then see what happens at 1/4 of an inch. So it looks like it's a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch. Okay, I've trimmed down my piece both with the trimmer and my scissors to where I've taken all of the white I can off without crimping the message here. And there I've got a tiny little strip, and this little strip just a tiny bit more than 1/4 of an inch. And what I can do now is pull this into the punch and pull this end out and punch this end. Then I can push this piece through and punch this end. And there I've got a custom made piece that is just, in fact, that's a little bit more on this other side. So I'm going to slide it back through and cut it a little bit closer to the words. And then you can get one that fits perfectly. So now this piece needs to be, let's see, how long is this piece? This piece is about 2 1/2. So I need this piece to be 2 3/4 long to absolutely fit my message. So 2 3/4 long, plus about, it was a little bit more than 1/4, so I'm going to take this to 1/2 an inch and cut this piece down. So this is now, what did I say? It's 2 3/4 by 1/2 inch, and this should now fit on here absolutely perfectly, and it does. Okay, so that's how you extend. This punch was just not quite long enough for the message that I wanted. Now, you can elect to put a shorter message on here. In Itty Bitty Greetings, there's Season's Greetings that would probably absolutely fit inside the punch as it goes, but you can make your punch bigger or shorter depending on what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and put this piece together. So add my snail to the back of my sentiment here, and then go ahead and put that on my piece of cherry cobbler so that it has a similar border top and bottom and side to side. Now I can add a few dimensionals. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. You know how you start with a whole table full of room and you end up with about 6 inches to work in? Supplies just encroach and you have to keep pushing them out of the way. Let's see, on this one, yeah, this can go all the way across here. I don't mind using more dimensionals because I like things never to sag and to be very secure. So then it's a matter of where we want to put this message on the card. I kind of liked it further up the top, but on this one I think maybe right down here would be just right. Celebrate the season. I realized now looking at this, I forgot to put the arms on the snowman. Those of you out there hollering at me, don't forget your arms. I'm going to get to it right now. Okay, here are my arms. And let's have him putting his arms up, being joyful. And there we go. We've got the front of our card just about done. Now, I cheated, and I used some gold sequins from the Peaceful Poppy sequin mix, because right now we don't have any gold sequins. Now, you might have some in your stash, and if you do, then I would suggest you use them, or anything else that is gold, even if you cut out a little piece of glimmer paper that with a punch to get little gold elements on the front here, because I think the gold makes all the difference in the world. And I'm going to add one down here on the bottom of my snowman, and I'm going to add one right up here, and maybe one more there we go, that I'm going to add, and I'm just putting these on top of a glue dot and then lifting the whole glue dot to put it in place on my card. And there we go. All right. So little gold elements, and maybe you have some gold rhinestones from a previous paper pumpkin, or some other way that you've got some gold sequins. I think we've had gold sequins in previous paper pumpkin kits as well. All right. So the next thing we need is I've got a piece of white that is cut 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm just going to add some snail on the back of this piece. And you know, you don't have to use card. I was watching somebody the other day, and that person used copy paper on the inside of her cards, and that would cut down your expenses by quite a bit. And she stamped on them and did everything else to put them in place. And I have a tendency to use card. I'd never really thought about using copy paper, but when I use copy paper, I use a very heavy weight, a 28-pound weight, and maybe that would be enough. I'll have to think about it. Okay, that wasn't straight even close. So I'm going to try and let me just start over on that piece. Okay. So that should be about right. There we go. And so there is the outside of our card. We just have to decide what to do on the inside, and I'm really tempted to use some of these little elements and make a snowman face over here in the corner. Put 2 eyes, and here's the nose that I lost earlier. And then put a smile down. And because I've done that, I'm going to switch these out. Going to add one more to his smile down here, and I'm going to use the big ones for the eyes. And there, that's our decoration for the inside. Okay, that is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. Now, I have an extra package of these little embellishments, and I'm going to give them away if you share the video. So I'll put this up. I think this is going to be on Thanksgiving, so let me say Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. And if you share the video, I will draw a name and send out one of these packages of embellishments. So again, thanks so much for joining me today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. It'd be lovely to have you on my team. Now, the prize for the month is the Christmas Rose stamp set and die set, and then a package of the paper. Christmas time is here. Sweet. And you can get in the drawing by putting an order of any size on my website, lbedinger.stampinup.net, or you can get to it through my blog, www.inkingenuity.com. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye.